Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is aggressive and I hope you're all having a great day. So for today I thought of actually making like a flanking guide. A flanking guide not only for the flank champions but for everyone, basically tanks, damages, flanks and supports. Don't take that seriously, by the way. Anyways, let's get into that first. Flanks in general, yes, they're supposed to go into the enemy backlines and try to get picks, but there are times when your flank will not be able to do any of that. Maybe the enemy has a very strong backline where you cannot push in properly, and your flank will need a backup. So for that reasons, there are times when your tank should help in the flank, or your damage dealers are pushing in with your flanks to help them break into the enemy backlines. So in today's video, I want to cover how you should do that, when you should do that, and how you can help your flank be effective in the enemy backlines. So without further ado, let's get into the first few topics and let's begin. The first topic that we're going to cover today is about aggressive tanks, or flanking tanks as most people call them. Flanking tanks are people who actually don't stay on the point as much, but try to break into the enemy backlines and cause as much pressure and be as much of an annoyance as possible. Flanking tanks are not meant for killing. I will repeat, they're not meant for always killing a target. They're supposed to help your flank or apply pressure so that your point tanks are able to stand on the objective for as long as possible, getting you more percentage takes, helping you with your ult charge and such. Flanking tanks are people who are supposed to get into the back, deal as much damage to the healers and force them back, so that it's basically like you're brawling them as much as possible. It's like flanks, but with a lot more HP and a lot more of a cushion to work with. Flanking tanks are supposedly a lot better than flanks as of now, because the flanks have been out of meta for such a long time. Anyways, as for examples, let's go for this first flip here, where I see that there's a lone healer in the back, and I try to focus down the healer because I know my point tank is going to die no matter what happens. But if I can get the healer, my team can aggress forward and we'll be able to break into their backlines. So here you saw me take out the Ying. I got the Strix. Now I see that the Khan is down, so I'm free to use my ult, and I see the Drogos is flying away into their backlines, so I focus him down. That is the use of an aggressive flanking front line, and we are able to take the forward point just because I was able to push them all back. So that is one example of a flanking tank. As you can see, I'm poking out the enemy, not pushing that far in. That is also something a flanking tank can do. Help as a damage dealer instead of actually just standing on the objective for a long time. Anyways, that is one example of a flanking tank who stays on the sides, tries to get as many picks as possible and deal long range poke damage, zone out targets and force them to to get their attention on you instead of your team, so that they have a lot more space to work with. Anyways, that's one example. Let's move on to the next segment. In this part, I want to talk about why aggressive flank tanks are very necessary in any sort of casual or ranked game. Aggressive tanks are such big HP targets that they will grab the attention of anyone. If they try to run away, you'll always be in their faces and continue to grab their attention so that they cannot focus on the actual team fight that's happening miles away in the back. For example, in this instance, you'll see that my entire team is on the right hand side, but I'm the only person who's on the left hand side. And I saw that there was a healer and the Koga there, and I grabbed their attention and I was able to kill them. But if I was not able to kill them, but at least I kept them busy enough for my team to win the right hand side fight as their team attention was divided. That's one of the key factors and the usefulness of having a flanking tank, as you're not stacking with your other tank, meaning you're creating more space on another side, giving your team a much more bigger room to work with. For example, in this instance, I didn't stack up with Fernando on that side, and he was able to zone out that, and I was able to zone out here and get the healer on this instance as well, as he was alone there. And in this instance, you'll see there is alexhamada in my game. He's a really good friend and a very good YouTuber, so do check him out. His YouTube name is pushdabuttons. Anyways, enough with the promotion material. let's get back into the video. As you can see here, I separated with Fernando my point tank. There, always remember, never stick with your point tank. Try to zone out different areas where your point tank can take one side and you can take another side. That is another key point of being a flanking tank. If you stack up with your tank a lot, that means you're just wasting time and wasting the potential you would have on the team and the amount of pressure you can put on two sides, basically dividing the enemy's attention. And that is just one key point. So let's move on to the next type of flankers, the damage dealers. So in this part of the video, we are going to cover the damage classes and how to flank with the damage classes. First of all, I will always imply damage classes, yes, they can flank really well, but they have a different sort of flanking playstyle. They sit in the back and do the damage, and if they see an opening for them to aggress on, then and only then will they go into the flanking motion and actually try to get into the back lines or from the sides and take another route that the enemy won't expect them to, away from their tanks, which will take them by surprise. Like in this instance, you just saw me poke out the Drogos, poke out the Pip, and then finally take the route from below Bright Marsh and then flank both of the tanks in the middle. They were not expecting me to come from that side. They all expected me to stay up there and contest their healer and their damage dealer instead, giving me the space to actually do the damage and then poke them out, killing them on the spot and helping my team capitalize onto the point. That is one of the things a flanking damage dealer can do. They can both poke and flank at the same time. That is one type of damage dealer. Now for another type. The last type of damage dealers we're going to talk about is the supportive flank damage dealers. These kind of damage dealers will stick with your flank at all times and deal damage from afar while your flank does the work in the front. These type of people will always try to stick with their tanks as much as possible and put out as much damage as possible so that so the flank can jump in to get the finishing blows and get the kills as much as possible. In this instance, you saw me pushing up with the Xin to the left hand side to create some pressure on the forward lane while I was on the right hand side doing the damage. Yes, the Xin dropped, but at least we were able to get all the picks necessary to get us the first point. And now in this instance, you'll see me pushing up forward from spawn as I was dropped, and I saw the Xin very low. As for a matter of fact, I saw the Xin low, so I pushed forward to help him secure all of the kills, and he was able to get out of there alive. Because I was able to create the space and do the damage so that he could get some more damage and get some of the finishing blows as much as possible. And now in this instance, I am helping the Xin by being in the back and dividing the enemy's attention. As you can see, Xin is also poking forward. He's trying to grab their attention while I'm in the back helping him to divide the enemy's attention even more. As you can see, the Buck saw me as a threat and pushed up forward to try and grab me, instead of actually focusing on my team who are in the front, like killing everyone. Meaning I provided more space for my team and my flank to do a lot more of his work more efficiently, and that let us win this round completely. And now finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, the last type of flankers, the flank class themselves. I could have made a video about just this class, but I wanted to show the emphasis on every class and show why is it so important to actually flank with both tanks and damage dealers, but not supports. Please, if you flank with a support, you are dead to me. You gotta understand that. And if any of you say anything about flanking Pip, I will not talk about that. Those people are just a gone case. Anyways, let's get back on topic. Flanks have the highest mobility out of every class, and mobility is what makes them so goddamn effective. They can get into the enemy backlines, get a kill, and get out. But there are some people who use them ineffectively, not using them to their full potential. In other words, like Hyris put it, a flank can get a kill, but a good flank can get a kill and get out. Those are the traits of a good flank. But that's why flanks are such a dynamic, that's why when you are playing flank, you need to be dynamic and creative on how you get all your kills and how you approach a certain situation. So now let's get into a couple of examples of how to flank, when to flank, and when to act damage. In this first example, I will be covering flanking. As you can see, after respawn I see a low Zen retreating, and I initiate the chase. After getting a quick kill with my team, I back out due to a Victor nade. And then I see my tanks pushing in through mid. That gave me the chance to take a quick flank on the left hand side and use my ult. I see two low targets in the back and I target them with my ult, getting two very important picks. Target prioritization is key, as you saw there. Me being able to get the healer and the Torvald, let our team have that space to capitalize on the point and take the objective. Why there's something that you can say about why did you target the Makoa instead of the Victor in that situation? Because the Makoa may have his ult in that situation, and he may be able to contest. Maybe we would have lost the point if he was able to do that. That's why I target the Makoa instead of the Victor, giving us the chance to. I can't stress the fact enough how important target prioritization is as a flank. You need to know which target to go for and which target to focus on when you're playing a flank champion. Everything depends on you when you're playing a flank, that which target you're going to focus on and what kind of picks are you going to get out of the enemy team, making them more weaker and giving your team much more of a chance to get the kills and aggress forward. And now for the very last part of the video, which is acting damage as a flanker. When you are unable to flank, then you do what people call act damage instead, where you are instead of flanking, you stay with the team and deal poke damage while waiting for an opening to pounce on the enemy healers or damage dealers. When you are doing this, your job is also to protect your own damages and healers from the enemy flanks. As you can see, I won't really explain this one because as it is completely self-explanatory. So here you guys go. Now we come to the end part of the video, which is a few more additional tips on the flanker class and how you should flank. Flanking should be very dynamic and very unpredictable. A lot of the problems most flankers face is that they will always take the same flank route and the same way of trying to kill a person and target that person specifically. A lot of people at one point will expect you to target them and they will take countermeasures accordingly. That's why you should always try to find different ways of approaching it. For example, you can first of all try to jump on them from a different flank route, or prioritize a different target, or get your team to help you kill that target if you see them taking those countermeasures. These are some of the things you must always keep in mind when you are playing a flanker. When you should target, who you should target, and which targets you should prioritize. And never be afraid to ask your team for help. Like, a lot of people always look down on the flanker, saying that you cannot even attack this person, why aren't you flanking them, why aren't you killing them? These are just bad people who do not understand the concept of flanking. Flanking is not always possible. Sometimes you need your teams to support to actually get into the backlines and deal or get a single pick at all. So always consider the fact that your team must help you. Like, not must, but team should be there to help you in your time of need to kill a certain champion that you are targeting. Also, to remember the fact that patience is a virtue when you are playing a flank. Do not be afraid to sometimes sit back. Yes, I said in the beginning of the video that you should not sit back and wait and try to help your team, but there are times when you can get a jump on the enemy just by sitting back a bit. But if you see that your team needs some extra damage, then and only then should you go and act as a damage dealer while you're waiting for an opening. Always remember, when you're waiting for an opening, don't wait too long, because there will be a time when your team is going to need you and you are not going to be there while just waiting mindlessly for that perfect opportunity to get a jump on the enemy healer or enemy damage dealer. always remember that your team is in constant need of you. Never think that, okay, I'm all right now, and I can just sit back and wait for an opportunity. This is a team game, and you should always help out your team, even if it's by damaging or even if it's by flanking. Also remember for a fact that these tips that I'm giving you right now, these can apply, or this can apply on most of your games, but sometimes the games will be more random and you cannot always apply the tips that I told you right now in your games. This game is dynamic, as I always say, so you should be dynamic with the game. Don't always try to focus the healer. Sometimes you may need to focus the tanks because your team needs to kill the tanks instead. Always remember the target prioritization should be dynamic. It should not. There's no guidebook on how to flank. You need to learn how to do it with more time, more practice, and it will get you there. And of course, I'm not going to cover aim. Aim is something you need to practice yourself and you need to learn. For example, it took me over a year to find my perfect sensitivity, which is now currently 1000 DPI with 6.3 in-game sensitivity, which works perfectly for me. Anyways, I won't go into that topic. That may be for another video if you guys want that. Anyways, I thank you all for watching, and I hope this helps you in your future endeavors. And until the next one, bye guys, and thanks for all the support.